Hey, what is good? What is good? What is good, ladies and gentlemen? Of course, you know who I be. Good Doc, Dr. Mike TV. Back again, once again. You already know what it is, baby. Instant classic in the making. First time to the channel, guys. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you notify. Do all the good things to make stuff well versed in the good Doc's content. All of my good stuff shall be listed in the link in the description area below. The Philippines, ladies and gentlemen. The Philippines is now officially open. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard that right. The Philippines is now officially open. But here's the caveat, ladies and gentlemen. Who is it open for? And for what reason is the Philippines open now? If you guys kept up with the travel updates that have happened recently in the last couple of months or so, you've noticed that the Philippines is allowing people who come from green countries to enter in. And of course, there's a lot of other stipulations and things that go along with what you're required to have before you're actually able to get in. But now that particular stipulation has changed for one particular country. And today, guys, we're going to dive right into why that is and exactly what it actually means for that particular country. All right, so give me a second, guys. I want to share with you guys something real quick. Article that I came across. Just give me uno momento. Are we sharing? We are officially sharing. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you look before you on the screen, I hope that is showing. This is my first time trying to figure this thing out. But the Philippines is now ready to accept refugees from Afghanistan. Now, I don't know how many of you guys have been keeping up with what's going on in Afghanistan right now, but let's just say that the rebels have taken over the actual political office. Like, they've taken over the country. All right. And in this particular article, which I found to be extremely interesting and I felt it was worth sharing, the Philippines has now opened its doors to allow refugees from Afghanistan to actually come into the country. This is reported to you by multiple news outlets, but the one article that I'm going to cover comes directly from the Manila Bulletin, and it says PH ready to accept refugees from Afghanistan, and this was posted as of just a couple of hours ago. Within 24 hours, I should say. All right. So the Philippines is prepared, the Philippines is prepared to provide refuge to people fleeing the conflict in Afghanistan following the collapse of its government. Okay. The story goes on to read that according to a presidential spokesperson, the country is willing to welcome asylum seekers from the troubled nation, a similar gesture shown to refugees of other conflicts. In a televised briefing, Brokin noted that the country has a long history in opening its doors to refugees. He has also cited a Supreme Court ruling that stated the Philippines would not hesitate to admit individuals fleeing their homeland because of fear of prosecution. So apparently these particular refugees are now leaving the country because of fear of prosecution. Okay. As the quote reads here, asylum seekers are welcome in the Philippines. All right. And it also goes on to read that to those who need refuge because they're being persecuted in their own homeland, you have a place in the Philippines. So the Philippines is opening its doors to the Afghan refugees. Again, that is a very, very honorable gesture. I will say that. That is a very honorable gesture. But as somebody on the outside of the conflict looking in, I have to tell you that there are some concerns. All right, some definite concerns. But let me go ahead and read through the article, and I'll definitely express some of the feelings that I have about, the country opening itself up in this particular manner. All right, so when we spoke virtual the United Nations General Assembly last year, President Duterte offered the country as a safe place for refugees, citing its humanitarian tradition in accordance with the obligations under the 1951 Convention of the Statutes of Refugees and the 1967 Protocol. So he's going back to what is written in a general bylaws of, the Philippines and the country and its agreements with the United Nations and so on and so forth. Okay. To everyone fleeing for safety, such as, I am not about to say that word to mess it up. I want to say it's Rohingya. Oh, God, no. Nope, not doing it. He mentioned the country's previous aid given to the white Russians following the 1970 revolution, the European Jews in the Second World War, and the Vietnamese in the late 1960s, and the Iranians displaced by the 1979 revolution. So it seems as though they have done this before. So it's not a new gesture. It's been open, and the utilization of that opening has definitely been utilized in the past before. The president also reminded the international community about the shared responsibility to help the most vulnerable, including those displaced by conflict, persecution, and political instability. In the face of mounting refugee crisis worldwide, let us work together towards the ending of the conflict and the conditions that force people to flee their homes. And I believe that is everything that that article has to say. But I have to talk to you guys about some of the concerns that I have about the opening of your doors to, you know, situations like this. It is an honorable gesture. I said it before, and as he said in the article, it is a shared responsibility that they open the doors to help people in need. It's the humanitarian thing to do. Number one, the only conflict that I'm sorry, not only conflict, but the only challenge I'm having with this situation is, guys, whether you want to believe it or not, guys, we're still in a pandemic. Okay. So to just bring in people in droves, because there are a lot of number of refugees coming into the country, do you believe that that would be ideal? Given the entire situation that's going on right now, does that seem ideal to do something of that nature and in that capacity? That seems very dangerous for the countrymen and fellow countrywomen to just bring these people into the country like this. I understand shared responsibility, due diligence, humanitarian thing to do. Rock on. I got that part. But for the sanctity and safety of your own, do you believe that is ideal? Now, unless you're going to tell me that you plan on putting, and I know this is going to sound crazy weird, but, and I hope it doesn't come out wrong, but unless you're telling me that you're going to put these refugees on one of those uninhabited islands in the Philippines where they're the only people that are on it, and you can kind of control the measures of any type of spread of COVID and all that stuff from the regard of COVID being the challenge, you're just going to allow them to come on to country land, and are they going to be, I don't want to say controlled, but are they going to be monitored? Do you have the funds? That's the question. Do you have the funds to monitor them and all of that stuff? Because I know the country has definitely been suffering due to, you know, the situation at hand. So do you have the additional funds to actually be able to support these people? I understand that you, as the president or whoever's making these decisions, you do not have to consult your fellow country people about this. But have you talked to people about this? Do they believe that it's a good idea? Have you thought about the idea? And I know this is a stretch, but I will be damned if it doesn't happen. Have you ever thought about, like my young lady likes to say, she calls it the wolf in sheep's clothing? Have you ever thought about someone who is actually bad fitting in with those trying to flee and possibly trying to infiltrate something in the Philippines as a result too? Because that does happen. And we're not necessarily monitoring them or having papers on these people or anything like that. So you don't know who's good and who's bad. And let us not forget that everybody is scared of Mindanao, because a lot of people know, but a lot of people don't know that ISIS has infiltrated Mindanao region. I mean, these are things that I think about. These are things my young lady thinks about, because she's brought this up in conversation with me before. And, you know, there's just so much to take into consideration when you just open the country to people in this regard, because you were putting so many restrictions and requirements on people just to be able to travel there leisurely. Granted, this is a situation that nobody could control. The fact that it happened is truly, truly unfortunate. All right, let's not ever overlook that fact. It's super unfortunate that this is what is happening in the country as we speak. But do you believe that it is good for the people of your own home country? I mean, the world is struggling. Everybody is struggling. This is a fact. No country is more well off than the other during this particular time. We've had some hits, we've had some misses everywhere in the world. But ideally, is it a great idea to just bring in new people to the country unless you plan on monitoring them wholeheartedly? And if you're bringing in so many people like that at one time, are you even going to be able to monitor them, monitor movements? Are they going to get QR codes as well? What are we going to do in order to ensure the protocols and things that you have already put in place or attempted to put in place in order to keep the people safe? How are we going to go about monitoring the people that you're just letting into the country? Because I don't think that you would let me in the country without knowing exactly where I am and what I'm doing, telling me I need a QR code before I enter buildings. I'm pretty sure I would have to do that just as a leisure traveler. But I don't think that just because there are refugees, again, it's an unfortunate situation, that we could be relaxed on the protocols that you're trying to put into place. I pray that's what it is. Maybe I didn't read it. Maybe it's written somewhere else and I just overlooked it. But in the article, I do believe that the idea of accepting people, again, honorable thing. But what are we going to do to make sure that the people that we are letting in don't cause havoc? And I mean, that's havoc directly and indirectly, aka directly the people who may be coming in for nefarious reasons, bad intentions, and those that are coming in that may have COVID. We're putting all these people on one plane at one time. Wow. Wow. That's a lot of things going on right now at one time. You feel me? So, my girl told me that there were videos of people hanging off of the plane. And I thought that just the thought of it is very, very depressing to me. That people were willing to do whatever it took in order to escape. And I understand that the country is, it's not ideal. I understand that. And the fact that they were willing to risk their lives to do that, that's sad. That shows me that these people are willing to do whatever it takes to get out. So ideally, in my mind, I'm thinking hundreds of thousands of refugees, numbers wise, and it could be so much more, way more than I'm ever expecting. It could be. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, where are we going to go from here? I believe that everything that's been put in place with this particular situation seems as though it's going to push everything back. And the one thing that I know is, where is this additional funding going to come from? Probably you're going to field funding from the different members of the United Nations, because again, sharedly, I believe that air quote means y'all got to put up the funds for this too. We might be the country they're in, but y'all got to bring the funds. Y'all got to help us out with the funds. I ideally believe that's what shared responsibility means in my mind. I'm gonna provide the place for them to stay, but y'all got to give us the money to do it. We shall see how this plays out, guys. But this is just a foreigner reacting to a story about the Philippines being open, but only open to a specific group of individuals. All right. Let me know what you think, guys. I'm definitely interested to hear. I'm not sure if the comment section will be open or closed. Don't judge me. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with it yet. But ideally, I would be interested. All right. Y'all take care, man, and y'all stay blessed, man. Doc is on to the next one. With that being said, good Doc is officially out. At least nako paalam, which means I am going now. Bye-bye. As always, love you guys. Sincerely do. Mahal kita. Mabuhay. Peace.